morning. Welcome to UUFE. I am Emily Cranwell, a member here, and I am joined this morning by Nancy Sajda, who will be helping to lead our service. Gratitude to the many others who have helped us bring this morning's service together. Thank you to our tech team, usher, sound attendant, office help, and the many others who keep our lights on and building warm. We are an intentionally welcoming community, and I am filled with joy to see each of you here with us this morning in the building and online. We hope that you will stay and join us for conversation following the service. And if you're new to Unitarian Universalism or UUFE, we welcome you and your questions. Feel free to ask any of us wearing a name tag. Welcome all. We will begin this morning in a way that for many months we were unable to begin, but by singing The Spirit of Life, hymn number 123 in our manual. Welcome. Oh, I'm sorry, board announcements first, thank you.
Excuse me, Jane, would you speak directly into the microphone? Thank you.
Our board announcements, we have 3 today. First, help, please. We have 2 more doors to be painted in the hall. Please contact Ann Davis or Usher if you can help. The next announcement is a bit long, but Saturday, April 23rd is our spring event and fundraiser. From 2 to 4, UUFE will be hosting an in-person intergenerational games. And later that evening, from 7 to 9, you can also join your UU friends for virtual games. Bill Browning is our in-person game host, and Topher Lawton is our online game host. We hope that everyone can join in at least one event, but feel free to attend both. Lauren Harton and Ann Davis are collecting your generous offers for fun events together. So far, we have a dinner on the river, movie night, spaghetti dinner, and pool party. Please see the links in the newsletter for your contributions to the silent auction. And the last announcement is join us tonight at 6 p.m. for our Spring Sing. Ampersand, Bozena, Lamparska, and Dawn Malaj will be leading a song around the bonfire. Lyrics will be provided.
Thank you, Jane. And now our spacious welcome by Sherry Woodbury.
Welcome who come in friendship, who long for genuine community.
May you be graciously received here as your authentic self.
Welcome who come in curiosity, full of questions or simply open.
May you embrace wonder and encounter new delights.
Welcome who come heavy with fatigue, weary from the troubles of the world.
May you rest and be filled in this sacred space.
Welcome who come with joy, for flowing rivers and gentle breeze, for changing skies and wind and great trees.
May the grace of the world leave a lasting imprint in you.
Welcome who come with thanks for the altruism of the earth and the gift of human care.
May your grateful heart overflow and bless those around you. Come, let us celebrate together this wondrous life. And now we'll ask Lisa Barry to come forward and light our chalice.
Joy is Hard by Reverend Joe Cherry. Joy is hard. Joy requires us to feel safe enough. To be safe enough to open to vulnerability. To feel joy, you must be brave. Joy walks into a room after the space has been cleared. Cleared of shame, cleared of doubt, cleared of self-recrimination. Joy is hard. Joy is hard. And joy is worth the hard work of preparation. Preparing oneself and setting down all the defenses, all the should-haves and could-haves, all the should-not-haves and might-haves. Joy is worth the work. You are worth the work. You can start small, the simple pleasure of your favorite tea, the grand freedom of a full belly laugh. Invite joy to be your companion.
Wow. You played that so joyfully. That's the idea, yeah. Please stand and join me in saying, the covenant of our fellowship. At the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship at Bisman, we seek to nurture spiritual and intellectual growth for all ages, and to be actively involved in community outreach and service, cherishing diversity and celebrating our oneness with all humanity. We covenant to support each other in the spirit of compassion, respect, and love. Please be seated. Here is a meditation called 8 Breaths to Joy, as written by Bisman. And I invite you, as I read, if you like, to engage in the actual action of the meditation. Here is a practice for cultivating joy that you can use anytime and anywhere. You can do the entire practice in just 8 breaths, or you can spend a few minutes on each exercise before moving on. Each breath has a single word to help you remember how to focus your attention. With the first breath, bring your awareness to the sensation of your breathing. Pay close attention to the physical sensation of your breath as it moves in and out. Follow your in-breath and out-breath from the beginning to the end. The word to say to yourself during this breath is breath. With the second breath, bring your attention to all of the sensations in your entire body. Allow your awareness to completely fill your body and notice what you find. Some sensations will be pleasant, some unpleasant, and some neutral. See if you can allow yourself to feel these sensations without trying to change them. Pay special attention to any tension, heaviness, or agitation. The word for this breath is body. For the third breath, actively release all of the tension, heaviness, and agitation in your body. You can imagine that it is being washed out of you with your out-breath. The word for this breath is release. With the fourth breath, say to yourself, may you have ease and lightness of body and mind. See if you can say this with your heart filled with love and generosity toward yourself. You are wishing yourself well and sending compassion to your body and mind. The word for this breath is love. With the fifth breath, notice if there are any cravings or aversions present in you. Is there any part of you that wants reality to be different than it is now? Just notice any cravings or aversions and let yourself feel them without trying to make them go away. They are a part of you that needs love and caring. The word for this breath is cravings. With the sixth breath, become aware that everything you need to be happy is already present in this moment. All of the conditions that are needed for peace, joy, and freedom are already here. In every moment of life, there are infinite reasons to suffer and infinite reasons to be happy. What matters is where we're paying our attention, where we're putting our attention. For this one breath, focus on everything in life that is good. We are no longer regretting the past or worrying about the future. We are here and present to the miracles of life. The word for this breath is letting go. For the seventh breath, become aware that you are alive. As you breathe, feel the energy of life moving through you. With this breath, we recognize the miracle of being alive. We become fully awake to the experience of being alive in the present moment. And we see what a precious thing this is. If you had just a few minutes to live, it would be so clear that 24 hours of life is incredibly precious. Let's not ignore this truth. The word for this breath is alive. With the eighth, and not really final breath, become aware of all the beauty within and around you. As soon as we let go of our desires and wake up to the present moment, we see that reality itself is indescribably beautiful. All of our senses, our sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, and mental perception, deliver this beauty to us like a precious gift. All we have to do is enjoy. The word for this breath is beauty. May it all be so. As most of you know, each week we take time to share what is on our minds and our hearts. After I light the first candle, I will ask you to come forward to tell us what's on your mind and your heart. If you have a joy and sorrow and you're on Zoom, please put it in chat, and I hopefully know how to look for it on this laptop.
I'll keep
I'm
watching.
usually, okay, thanks for saying, I'm usually on an iPad. I'm actually going to light 2 candles.
Microphone.
Oh, sorry. I'm actually going to light 2 candles. What's on most of our minds and hearts these days are the people in Ukraine and their great suffering, and also the suffering of many of the people in Russia who are not in favor of this war, and the people in northern Japan who had an earthquake recently. So this first candle really is for all people who are suffering, and they're not just people in faraway lands, are they? Plenty of people close by to us who are suffering for many reasons. Mental health issues, or loss of a loved one, or the isolation of the pandemic. So this is for all people who are suffering. And right along beside, it seems, along beside a lot of those folks who are suffering are people with great compassion, we see the people in Poland and the people in a lot of surrounding countries taking people in, feeding them, offering them a bed. We see here in Easton our nurses and doctors taking care of people who suffer in whatever way from the pandemic. So, along with all the suffering in the world, if there were at least an equal amount of compassion, we'd be so happy. So we light this candle though for all of those who are taking good care. So as you know, we haven't been doing the offertory during the pandemic, but we're going to today. Our fellowship relies on the generosity of everyone in our community. This morning offering will now be collected and gratefully received. If you put a check in, be sure to put in the memo what the check is for. That's an important point.
First day of spring certainly feels like the perfect time to deliver this message, a joyful time. But joy was one of the topics touched upon in the small group ministry program that I hosted this winter. Titled Reconnection, our small group time was an opportunity, even over Zoom, to reach out to others in the congregation and connect. From our homes, 6 to 8 of us meditated, spoke, and deeply listened to one another on a variety of topics. Side plug, if you have been invited or are considering trying a small group ministry program, do it. It's been an incredibly meaningful, worthwhile part of my UU journey. When our small group spoke on the topic of joy, I realized just how spiritual the experience of joy can be, and also how hard it is for so many of us. I found that the more I thought about joy, the more I noticed the small moments in my day that made me feel joyful. A quiet moment curled up with my son and a good book, the full moon in the sky in the early morning, the sound of a child unabashedly singing, my whole classroom of learners in focused conversation, bright yellow daffodils beginning to bloom amidst the rainy days of spring, the chords of piano music bouncing through this room. For me, joy is sometimes that belly laugh that starts deep within me, but also what I began to listen for, to feel for, was that sensation bubbling up. Different from the calm, quiet feeling of happiness or contentment, a moment of joy often moves me close to tears. Stinging, watery eyes are a sure sign that emotions have welled up and joy is ready to pour out. You can ask my niece Maggie how embarrassing it was to have me watch her cheerleading competition last week. So this work of looking for joy felt important. It felt healthy. Ingrid Fattel-Lee tells us that joy is contagious. It sharpens our minds. Joy opens us up to new ideas and makes us more resilient. I hoped that the work of joy would begin to have these benefits, especially on the days when the news broadcast or my Facebook feed is filled with war and pain and loss. Joy can bring necessary perspective, lighting the path forward through hard days. Some have compared joy to light, as Elia Kemmler does in her reflection, Open to Joy. She states, joy can break through like starlight or candlelight in the darkness, but that it is surrounded by the hard stuff of everyday life. Maybe that makes it all the more precious. Others have defined the experience of joy similarly. Brene Brown tells us that twinkle lights are the perfect metaphor for joy. Joy is not constant. It comes to us in moments, often ordinary moments. Sometimes we miss out on the bursts of joy because we were too busy chasing down extraordinary moments. Other times, we're so afraid of the dark that we don't dare let ourselves enjoy the light. A joyful life is not a floodlight of joy. That would eventually become unbearable. I believe a joyful life is made up of joyful moments gracefully strung together, of trust, gratitude, inspiration, and faith. What Brene Brown names here too are some of the reasons that joy can be elusive, why joy can be so hard to let in. First, we might miss it if we simply aren't attending to it. If we're waiting to be served breakfast in bed, we are unlikely to notice the simple joy of a steaming cup of coffee or a banana ripened to perfection on the day you are craving one sliced on your cereal. Second, we can be so afraid of losing what makes us joyful that we limit the experience of joy in order to limit the risk of its loss. Brown goes on to argue that joy is probably the most difficult emotion to really feel. In a culture of deep scarcity, of never feeling safe, certain, or sure enough, joy can feel like a setup. We're always waiting for the other shoe to drop. We're afraid that the feeling of joy won't last, or that it won't be enough, or that the transition to disappointment, or whatever is in store for us next, will be too difficult. We've learned that giving in to joy is, at best, setting ourselves up for disappointment and, at worst, inviting disaster. Joy can be terrifying in this way. It's terrifying to think about losing the things or the people that bring us joy. We try to minimize our emotional risk in order to avoid devastation. We allow ourselves to get caught up in worry about things rational or irrational in a process that Reverend Elliot Kemmler refers to as rehearsed suffering. In much the way that unfounded worries sneak in at night and rob us of precious sleep, Kemmler warns us that what rehearsing suffering does is make it harder to have room for joy, to recognize joy, to rest in joy when it does come. A third hurdle to experiencing joy, Brown describes as the worthiness issue. Do we deserve our joy, given our inadequacies and imperfections? What about the starving children and the war-ravaged world? Who are we to be joyful? But this quote also brings to mind the images that I've seen of stranded Ukrainian children, but also the videos of musicians playing their pianos in bomb-damaged apartments, or violinists playing together virtually from their basement shelters. Even amidst the destruction, they're seeking comfort by creating beauty, by creating joy. The more that I thought about these reasons, the joy limiters in my life, I also began to think about the emotional risk of joy that we experience even early in age. As a teacher spending lots of time with 10-year-olds, I can tell you that it can be vulnerable for kids. They begin to let go of joy in order to embrace conformity, to let go of the activities that make them joyful in order to fit in. Suddenly it becomes embarrassing to play with trucks or dolls or play house, and our dreams begin to feel too big to come true. So many of us make ourselves smaller to fit a mold, to go unnoticed, to avoid the label weird. For many of us, our joy begins to deflate. It's no wonder then that a child who laughs 300 times a day becomes an adult who laughs only 17. So how then do we begin to make room for more joy, allow it to fill us back up? The first piece of advice that I read again and again is simply to pause and take notice. Reverend Julia Hamilton tells us that joy shows up most often when we are present and open to the uncontrollable beauty of life. Joy recedes when we lose touch with the present, when we are so preoccupied with the future, with trying to control where things are going, that we can't see what delights might be popping up right in front of us now. This is largely the reason that joy spotting can help us be more joyful. It shifts our focus and our attention. It gives us permission to pause among the hustle and bustle, to honor the feeling and cause of our joy. Hermann Hesse advises, accustom yourself every morning to look for a moment at the sky, and suddenly you will be aware of the air around you, the scent of morning freshness that is bestowed on you between sleep and labor. Pay it some heed, and you will have for the rest of the day a remnant of satisfaction and a touch of coexistence with nature. So first, we must allow ourselves that chance to pause. Kemmler reminds us that joy is right there in the chaos, right there in the midst of our less than lovely, picturesque lives. So joy is easy, and it is hard. Hard to remember to take that moment to reflect on the beauty in our day, and yet when we do, it can also be easy to find a patch of blue sky, a bird in flight, a small act of kindness. To let your perfectly buttered popcorn or cat's playful mood bring you joy. James Baraz gives us a few additional strategies to try and foolproof ways to feel more joy. The first is gratitude. He states that the most direct way to awaken joy comes from a grateful heart. Reflecting on your blessings regularly and appreciating them in the moment is powerful. And expressing your gratitude also transforms appreciation from fleeting thought into a living and shared connection. I often think of the musical lesson from Bing Crosby in White Christmas, and I try throughout the rest of the year to count my blessings instead of sheep as I lay down each night. And I'm also reminded here that simply saying thank you can bring you closer to others. His second piece of advice is to identify the activities that make you happy. Maybe dancing or going for a regular walk in nature, and scheduling time to do those things with the people you love. I need to remember this at times when my early morning alarm sounds to get me to the YMCA. Exercise brings me joy. Exercise brings me joy. Exercise brings me joy. Let that soak in. Third, express your caring in a fulfilling activity. This might mean being there for others, being there for a loved one, or volunteering for something that touches your heart. Finding ways to make a contribution to others gives our lives greater meaning. Being active here at UUFE among you brings me joy. Getting up here on a Sunday morning brings more joy into my life. Fourth, Baraz advises, talk kindly to yourself. The kinder you are to yourself, the kinder you'll be to others. And this is a hard one for many of us, but I'm reminded of the advice that I read online about how we should talk to ourselves the way we talk to our pets. What a good girl you are. Oh, so pretty. Oh, look at that tummy. Finally, spend regular time with a creative outlet like singing, art, or writing. It makes you feel alive. Singing has always been a feel-good therapy for many, whether a formal chorus or choir, or a long and loud sing-along in the car or in the shower with the radio turned up. Perhaps the spring sing tonight will bring you joy. Perhaps joining choir that begins rehearsing again this week may bring more joy into your life. So I hope that this list can also serve to remind us of the many reasons that we come together on Sunday mornings. May the joy of our experience here together give us an opportunity to feel more joy, for the way that it allows us to reflect in gratitude, spend time with one another, engage in meaningful activities, make a contribution to our community, and even to sing. May it be so. We have the lyrics to What a Wonderful World in our order of service, if you'd like to stand and join us in singing along. we extinguish our chalice today with closing words from Karen G. Johnston. Greater than any single moment. Spirit of life, we seek to touch that joy that never leaves this world. That is not happiness built on happenstance, but is a living, breathing joy, greater than any single moment. In those moments we cannot feel it, let us seek to remember it is always there, around us and in us. Go in peace, go in joy, go knowing love surrounds you wherever you may go.